market making proposal that we have up. But before we get to those juicy topics, maybe Zach can catch us up on a few things that we had pending.
Sure. Thank you, David. So hello, everyone. Again, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And I think today my part will be short, and because we have several important things on the pipeline to discuss. So I will just briefly share, update everyone about three things. One is actually the DEX update. As you know, we have successfully tested FX wearable, whereby many of you actually tested and placed long or short position on derivative products, especially on the FANG stocks. It's been a very interesting process. Some of us in the office actually made a lot of money, and some actually lost a lot of money by putting long or short position. And of course, those are just test tokens, worry not. And all those testings that many of you here have done will help us tremendously in improving alpha and getting beta out. And some of the things that we want to work on for beta, one is actually the closing of the position. Some of you have reflected that it is sometimes erroneous to close position, and that is one thing that we need to improve. The second thing is actually to think what other things apart from the FANG stocks that we want to include. We have heard various feedbacks. Some actually say palm oil index. Others have said, what about S&P index, the REITs, the ETF? And these are all very interesting proposals. In principle, whatever that we can get from the price oracle, we will be able to trade it. Of course, we want to do it step up, whereby we introduce these products, these tradable products slowly, and we will be discussing internally on what to come up with. And of course, third thing many of you have mentioned on the forum is how to get the world to realize about variable, and including naming is something that is seemingly very simple, but so you know, we have spent our fair share amount of time debating how to name the product. And at the forum, you can also voice your opinion, and we shall figure out what to name our product together with the community. The second one is actually the EVM update. EVM update is something that a lot of developer in the community is actually very much anticipating, including Foxcoin, which actually wanted to present today, this week, but we have decided to do it in the next all hands when Foxcoin can actually put his marketplace up on the EVM, whether on mainnet or testnet. And for those of you that follow the forum closely, you know, one of the breakthrough that we have somewhat more or less solved is actually to sync the token amount from an FX address to a traditional 0x address, which is a hex address, which is used by the majority of the EVM compatible blockchain. The very important thing of this syncing, of this support, is that with that, we think we can just support MetaMask out of the box, which is actually very critical, because many of us here, all of us here, have FX wallet, but I think to go beyond FX wallet to get MetaMask support is very critical. So the syncing of FX addresses, address that starts with FX to the 0x addresses, which is supported by MetaMask, is something that we have been working on, and there's an ongoing discussion on the forum about this. So I think we should be able to fix that soon. And EVM is really at the end of the tunnel, and we will see the light soon. And thirdly, of course, is that this week we also have a few friends to join us today, as David have mentioned, and they will also take the floor in the second half of the session. So I think, David, that is all from me.
Okay, so I'd like to turn to the guidelines for EGF proposals. because we did have experience with it, some of it not so positive in terms of the community's response. And in response to that, Richard's been working really hard, taking suggestions from the community, as well as accumulating a lot of different experiences from other platforms. And he's come up and has shared with everyone in the forum a draft of guidelines. So Richard, you're the creator. Why don't you give us an introduction to those?
All right, thank you, David. So I'll just share this. I'll share my screen. Can you see it on the EGF?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So I'll spend about 15 minutes to go through all this information. So bear with me. I think most of us are more inclined to spending 1 minute on TikTok videos rather than 15 minutes going through a very lengthy proposal. So first up, actually, I would like to thank all the community members like French Core, Superbit, and Risk Truth. They've all put a lot of inputs into this document, and they've helped refine it. So yeah, let's just run through. So the overview is as the previous proposals have highlighted, like Dalvers and the dummy projects, right? That we have a bit of an issue with decentralization, especially when public internal or team validators do not vote to remain neutrality. So we have come up with a proposal on that, and we'll also go through the process flow on guidelines, interviews, how you're being onboarded, and also the tiers and the categories. So which tiers an individual is eligible for. Like, let's say they are only eligible to request for up to 5,000 USD. And I'll dive into the EGF proposal form. So first up, here is the proposal. All proposals will still be voted on chain, so will remain status quo. But as the Dalvers project has highlighted, we have an issue where even if all the public validators do vote, they would not, a proposal would not reach quorum. So my suggestion is that we form an internal team of 3 committee members. So depending on the type of project, like let's say it's a NFT marketplace, then the committee members will be 3 smart contract developers. Or if let's say like Chronos, right? They have launched a proposal on market making. So it will have a team of 3 maybe system engineers or traders. And each committee member will have 5% of the network's voting power. So they will function independently, but if let's say you filled up all the guidelines properly and it passes each member, then you increase your voting by 5%. So the process flow is that we'll start off with an inquiry form. So from points 1 to 5 of the EGF proposal form, which I'll take you through later, this is something that you need to fill up and start an inquiry with the team. So after that, actually, we will come up with better guidance and also come up with other support opportunities, other beyond monetary support, like for example, technical advice or technical help. And also to identify other projects that you can collaborate with. And if let's say both parties agree that we still need financial support, then you will resubmit or submit a complete EGF proposal form. And after evaluation, after a few rounds of technical interviews, after funding decision, and after onboarding, then the funds will be dispersed according to the different milestones set in the guidelines. So the funds will not be dispersed one lump sum initially, but it will be dispersed according to the different milestones. So let's just dive into the tiered amounts and categories. So this is based on the data I've collected as well across the different grants. So individuals can request up to 5,000. Individuals and small teams can request up to 10,000. And, you know, small teams and startups are capped at 50,000. For companies and foundations, you can request for more than 100,000, but I'll say that there's a soft cap of 100,000 for now. So all these are denominated in USD. So the fund will actually, the grants will be paid out in FX tokens. The amount will be calculated based on the exchange rate at the time of payment. And, you know, we'll use the exchange rate in CoinMarketCap. So here are some of the categories that, I mean, you can put into your EGF proposal form. So this is more to highlight and to really help the team understand your project better, to really help you as well. So, you know, you have your blockchain network layers, you have your DEXs, you have your NFT marketplaces like maybe Foxcoin or the Dalvers, right? Or your in-game apps, right? And also wallets like your NAMI proposal and market making bot like, you know, the Kronos proposal. So this is a detailed guidelines. I won't go into details, but I'll just share with you certain key points here. So the overview is, I mean, your project name, your team name, which category you belong to, the level of amount you're requesting for, and after which, you know, your project description. So this is very important as well. You know, is it at a stage of just proof of concept? What are your mock-ups? What are your designs? Do you already have a UI, or do you have any kind of documentation or any data, any research data to showcase for your project? And after which you have to fill out the team profile. So this is another important point. So we are a blockchain team, and let's say you are supposed to create an NFT app. It is very vital that, you know, you have your GitHub repo of your team as well as each individual team member, because, you know, it really shows and reflects credibility. If not, you know, especially in the crypto space, anyone can impersonate someone else. So I think this is very important. As well as the ecosystem fit and impact. So this really helps, you know, and gives back to the community. So we need to know how this will benefit us as a community, right? And, you know, you'll score brownie points if, you know, you show that, or you promise that you have tangibles that you can give back to the community. Let's say you create an NFT marketplace. Maybe you could say that 20% of the initial minted NFTs will be airdropped to the community. So this would really show that you are willing to give back to the community, and there'll be a high chance that this proposal will pass as well. And point 5 is development status. So any technical dilemmas, you know, any difficulties finding support in the community. So points 1 to 5 will be in your inquiry form, and the remainder, which are more costs, associated costs, will be in the formal proposal. So for budget and impact, right, you do have to research on the breakdown of all the associated costs. Let's say you want to hire a dev team to help with your marketplace. You need to do your research and say, okay, this is how much a dev will cost in the market right now. Let's say 6,000 per month, and then put that into your associated costs and the cost breakdown. And for the development roadmap, you have all your costs, associated costs already known. And the key point here is to have a milestone. Let's say, you want to create a wallet, a browser extension wallet. Maybe the first order of business is to be able to connect with the blockchain network layer. So that's your milestone one. And that will cost you maybe about $5,000 to complete, right? So the funds will be dispersed upon you achieving that milestone. And then, you have your milestone 2, your milestone 3, and all the other milestones in this guidelines, and be as detailed as possible. And, also for your future plans, whether, how you want to maintain and manage your project, because this is also very important. A lot of times, like even after the project is completed, you still need to do like security updates. So this will be your proposal form. And I was thinking of putting it to our GitHub repo. And so any proposer can just fork this repo and showcase it to the wider community as well. And before I end off, I'd just like to share with you a bit of the info that I have. Let me just share my screen again. A bit of info across the different grants, the data, right? So the Unisoc grant program, in a nutshell, right? In the last quarter, there were 84 proposals and only 2 projects were approved. So that's about 2% approval rate. And, there's about 17 projects that are pending. So this also shows that, even in 4 months or 3 months, right? It's not really, the team might not be able to really approve that proposal. So it takes time. And also, across all the different grants out there, like Web3 Foundation, they have a cap of 100,000. Okay. Unisoc as well, about 100,000. Even the Ethereum Foundation as well is about 100,000. Okay, the max is actually Unisoc. So Unisoc was able to be granted 50,000 plus 120 ETH in 2018. So at the max of the price of ETH then, it was about 120,000. So this is just to really put things into perspective. Yeah, that's all from me.
So
I just want to really thank Richard for putting this together, because there were a lot of different voices coming at you all at once, both internally and externally. And I think you've put together a really solid set of guidelines, and I want to thank you, because I think it'll help us be significantly smoother as we look at different proposals coming in.
I think one key thing is that the on-chain governance process remains the same, which means anyone can still apply for anything. And this guideline is more to tell the developers that, hey, from the experience that we have gathered from Web3, Uniswap, Ethereum, this is likely to be the size and the approval probability, and it is a good reference. And to help us to work with future proposal, what we are planning to do is to actually have a committee whereby it comes from 3 technical people from the team, and each of them actually represent approximately 5% of the company foundation voting power. So this is a little bit of a departure from what our stand was, which that the foundation validator will not vote at all. And instead of not voting at all, we will choose 3 subject experts. So if the next proposal that comes out is an NFT marketplace, then we would have smart contract developers or DevOps developers forming the 3 committee. And if all 3 agrees and green light that proposal, then that proposal itself will have 15% of the voting power from the foundation. But then again, anyone can still go on chain without the approval of this committee. I think that is also to keep the essence of the governance alive, fully transparent, which some of you have mentioned. Nami have also mentioned it quite a bit, super bit as well on the forum. Yeah.
Good. I think if it's okay, we can take questions now from those attending. And since Richard's here to answer and Zach, so are there any questions? I saw I don't see hands on the thing that I have.
Yeah, there are some questions on the chat. David, would you like to read it out, or do you want me to?
I can't. You can read it out because I can't see them.
Okay, so Raphael Francis said that it puts to perspective why the Dalvers proposal failed. I really thought the 600,000 requested was a bit too much, so it's more of a comment. French X-Core said that, but we need also to ensure the community spend pool does not grow too fast compared to the funding of new features and of the growth of the ecosystem. The same applies to EGF, which doesn't grow. Okay, I think that is a great point. I think we need to hash out a little bit what you mean by the community spend pool, but I think French Core has made ample good comments as well on the forum. Okay, and the next one is a real question. So Raphael asked, how can we assure the community about the fairness of the judgment of the 3 people? Don't you think the 3 people should be from outside the FX organization, perhaps even some consulting companies? I think David or Richard, feel free to weigh in. Yeah.
No, I appreciate the comment. I don't think it's practical to enact, at least at this point. There may be somewhere along the line after we've kind of got this rolling that we can look at that. But the point is that I think that it's really important, at least from my perspective, to understand that, again, decentralization doesn't happen all at once. And so there are various interests that are competing. And while there's certainly a keen interest in fairness and equity into how it's implemented, at least at this point, I feel quite certain that our own 3, whomever is picked as part of that committee, I'm at this point not concerned about a lack of fairness. Though again, I think that some point down the line it could be considered. That would, that would increase the to have external developers sit on a committee would also, really would be expensive. And so, I think that would have to be a consideration also. That's just my own opinion.
Okay.
If I may.
Yeah, French.
Correct. Hi, everyone. Thanks for letting me ask the question. Yeah, actually, I was talking about the community spend pool. As we can see it in the Explorer right now, it's currently, it has currently something like 30 million FX tokens located to it. And my worry would be that actually the FX mainnet is pretty young. We have already 30 million FX going through it, and what if we don't spend it for the real growth of the FX ecosystem? I mean, we will soon have 60 million, then 90 million FX, and I mean that's going to grow very fast. And yeah, my only question is, what are we gonna do with all this? I mean, we can go fast as well, but I mean, it's more of a question of how do we do it?
I mean, I think to start, it's a good problem to have. And as you rightly pointed out, French X Core, even our FXDM distribution is really simply too slow, right? You commented if we were to go on that speed, it would take us 12 years or I don't know 120 years to finish. I think your concern is very legit, and I think you sincerely want to push proposal and projects forward so that the ecosystem grow. We definitely won't be distributing at the rate that we are right now. I mean, FXDN is just starting. It has had some delay, so we are distributing it much slower. But rest assured that it's definitely going to pick up. Let me give you an example. If we are listing on a certain exchange, which requires a listing fee of, say, $1 million, which is pretty common. So that itself would really just speed up the whole spending. And if you work with, big names, YouTubers, brands, that would also speed up. So I think it is definitely not a linear line that we are seeing. It will be very much highly incremental. Yeah.
All right, thanks. I'll come back to that later anyway after we discuss the new proposal.
Okay, sure. And Superbit says that I don't know if you are at work, Superbit, like you normally do. I think the 3 internal committees is a good thing to point out technical feasibility and better decision making, aiding to all DAO members. Of course, I think we should. The 3 decision-making process should always be taken on the forum as much as possible. Yeah.
No other questions right now?
No more, David.
Okay. So we do have a few other matters before we get to Kronos. Just one, I wanted to do a quick one on FXDM. That we have, we're in the process of updating the award amounts. We started off too low, and that was not attracting a lot of the creators who really do value and appropriately so their creations. So we've boosted up the award amounts. We're also working on finalizing a separate website for FXDM to be able to spread the word better, and also to be able to facilitate in people uploading their creations. And then the next item then is Kronos, and I thought that the best introduction to that would be from Danny, to explain just sort of in simple terms why we want to have, or why we're considering having a market maker. Danny?
Hi, yeah, thanks, David. Hi, hi everyone, boys and girls, gentlemen and ladies. So this is Danny. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hi guys. So this is Danny. So thank you, David, again. So basically, when we talk about market making, non-financial people might think this is something very subtle or very complicated and sophisticated. So look at it into this place. So in the market, there got 10 apples. So I know as a seller, right, you want to sell it as high as possible. As the buyer, you want to sell it as low as possible. So for example, when today we want to buy an apple, so this apple probably costs $1. So as a seller, when you have 10 apples, you are comfortable to sell an apple for $1. But when the buyer keep buying the apple, like, left only 5 apples, then the seller might think, well, probably the apples market today is pretty good, then we are gonna to raise the price. So then the 6 apple you're gonna buy is $2, and then the 7 apple probably is $4. So in this case, right, without a market maker or a middleman to maintain the demand and supply, buyer will keep buying the apple with a higher price, and vice versa, the seller will keep selling the apple at a lower price if there's no market making service. So in short, we need this market making service to enhance the order book, the buy side order book, and then the sell side order book, to maintain the liquidity and allow users to offload their tokens, or new investors, if they want to buy a chunk of FX token, they can maintain at a stable price. Not really like the first 2 chunks are $1 per token, and then the second chunk will goes up to let's say $2. So if that's the case, this will scare out a lot of investors, saying that, well, the liquidity might not be stable, so probably this is not the right token, we should go into it. And that's and then when we are doing a finance classes, during my uni time, right, my professor always saying that not only look at the price itself, but also look at the liquidity. If the market is not deep enough, means that you are not really buying the right stuff. So that mindset always reminds us of my uni life, and then brings out to my career, this and that. And then after a while, when we are doing this market makings, and then with the exchange relationship, all of that, then we have this internal discussion saying, well, I think it's a chance, we need to invite external market makings instead of the organic growth, to speed out the process. And when I bring this proposal to internal, and then people might then interestingly, our internal committee, they feel this might be a good idea. And then very coincidentally, we have Chronos, which happen to see FX as a potential, I would say. So yeah, so I think why not we let Kronos to talk about the proposal, and then the benefit of being providing market making service to FX, and then how can FX community like me, like David, like any one of you, how can we benefit from it, and then what are the risks, what are the benefit, and then why the 6.8 million loans make sense and justifiable.
Good, thank you. Do we have someone from Kronos here who'd like to talk about the proposal?
Hi, David. I think I'm the right person to do that.
Good. Hi, Ben. Welcome.
Hi. Well, thank you, first of all, for the great introduction, buying and selling apples. I just wanted to maybe give some background context on Kronos Research for people who are unfamiliar with the name. It's a quantitative trading firm, which means they trade only using computers, right? And they were founded in 2018 by some Wall Street veterans, Jack Tan and Mark Pimentel, who at the time made a pretty big jump going from Wall Street traditional markets into crypto. A lot of people said that couldn't be done because of the immature markets and exchanges, but they quickly proved them wrong. And then around 2019, 2020, they incubated another network called Woo Network, which is somewhat like a liquidity provision platform for different exchanges and wallets. So my role is split between Woo Network, where I'm the marketing VP, and then Kronos Research. The thing with market makers is they're traders, but they're not the traders that you might be familiar with who sit around looking at charts, drawing lines, and making trades. They're more like computer programmers who they write software that knows how to trade. So that's one of the reasons why I do a lot of the upfront work for them, because I'm more comfortable communicating. I'm not a computer programmer. Yeah, and that's why I'm very active in the governance forums, not only yours, but a lot of other ones, including Paraswap, DYDX, and a lot of big name DeFi governance forums, also including our own, the WuDAO. We have our own governance forum. So watching this call, I actually recognize a lot of the issues that we go through, and it's really positive to see that your community, the participation is very active. So that's quite encouraging, and one of the reasons we're glad to be here. So I guess maybe now I could follow up, if you don't mind, on what Danny was explaining about what is market making, what is our role here. So is this a good time for that, David?
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. So I think Danny did a good job, but I'll try to make it a little more simple. I mean, market making is essentially just putting buy orders and sell orders about the same ratio, the same distance from what we call the midpoint, right? So that way, if anybody wants to buy, they can. If anyone wants to sell, they can do that as well. Now, the advantages I think Danny made pretty clear. For the user who may be on this call, it's very direct. If you want to buy or sell, you can get a much better price, regardless of what your action is. And if you're a big institution, which Danny hinted at with his university life story, you'll look at these assets and you might be looking for a cryptocurrency that you believe in it, but when you see the liquidity, you know that you're not going to be able to put a lot of money into it. And then if the markets start moving and you want to exit your position, you're not going to be able to do that either. So it's just too risky. The risk tolerance for these institutions, they'll avoid assets that have low liquidity. So that's a second benefit that won't directly benefit the listeners here, but it will improve, I guess, the token liquidity for FX. A third one that's kind of indirect is when you have this liquidity, people are buying and selling it a little more frequently. And that increases your token volume, which makes you more attractive as an ecosystem to centralized exchanges and wallets and anyone who thinks, okay, if we put the FX token on, there's people buying and selling it. We can earn money here. This is a good deal. So that's kind of another benefit that gets lost in this. Two quick things I want to make perfectly clear: that established market makers do not impact the price at all. They're market neutral, which means they're not pumping it and they're not dumping it, right? Maybe that doesn't go for all market makers, but for the top market makers with a strong reputation, which I consider us to be one, that's very true. And a second point is that market makers do not wash trade to increase the volumes, right? So any increases in volume will be because the token is simply more tradable. Okay, so I think that's kind of the basics of what we're doing and how it will benefit the FX holder and trader. You guys might be wondering, like, why are we doing this? It's a good question. I think 2 or 3 years ago, these kind of quantitative trading firms were more than happy to sit on centralized exchanges, and there was no need for loyalty. There was no need for anything because you just trade whatever had volume, whatever was hot, and that was fine, right? But we're coming to a different era, I think, with DeFi, and you have governance forums, and you have decentralized exchanges as well. So you can't get too comfy, and you need to make alliances out in the broader ecosystem. And on top of that, there's just more players. So we're always looking to diversify the business models. So one of the ways we do that, we have an investment fund called Chronos Ambrosia. So that's always looking for early stage startups that they can invest in. And one of the ways you get to good projects is by having a good reputation, right? These are two things that are very linked. So this market making service is essentially an extent, it can extend to that. If there's a small project that we want to support, we can also do market making service. So all of this links into now we have this more complete ecosystem instead of just this trading firm on a few CeFi exchanges. I guess that's kind of why we're here. The there are some risks, obviously, which you might be questioning, right? The risks, obviously, for FX Foundation is that we, are not good on our promise to return the funds. And I guess what I would say to that is the reason we would, well, one, we're very trustable because we trade anywhere from $5 billion to $20 billion per day on CeFi platforms, right? So this is a very mature and established process, right? We didn't. Another thing that I would say is one of the reasons, like I said before, our reputation is very important to us. One of the most interesting ways that we can, show our reputation is on DYDX, which is a public futures perpetual swaps trading platform operating on Starkware. And their market making scores are public. So you can see who has the most consistent uptime and the best liquidity, essentially. And so we have been pretty consistently the #1 market maker in DeFi since it launched last summer, up there with a few other market makers such as Wintermute, which you might have heard of. But Kronos Research is usually 1 or 2. And the perk of being a designated market maker is you're allowed to borrow for free on their platform. And if we were to ruin our reputation here, then that would have a chain effect, right? Suddenly people would not want Kronos Research market making on their platform. These smaller projects would not want us investing. It would cause a lot of damage to the company. So we have a very big incentive to do good upon our promises and to fulfill the terms of the proposal, essentially. A second thing that is important, and sorry, I've been talking for quite a while here, this is not without risk to the market maker, because it's not very easy. If it were easy to be a market maker, a lot of people would do it. But the risk, obviously, is you're essentially doing what the market is not doing. So if everybody is buying, then you have to sell. And if everybody's selling, then you have to buy, right? So if conditions go the wrong way, it's very easy to lose money on every trade. So our years of experience, our investments in infrastructure, hiring, training, all these sort of things, allow us to minimize that risk, but that risk is still ever present. So it's not like we're getting this free loan from the foundation and then just earning a bunch of profits on it and then giving it back, right? I mean, there's a risk we're taking, and we believe, obviously, that we are one of the top candidates to do it. But that's it's definitely, there are two parties in this arrangement. FX is taking a slight risk by lending to us, and then we are taking a slight risk by doing this service. The number we requested was 6.8 million. We did not pull this number out of thin air. There is a formula that our trading team, they look at a number of factors, including the liquidity on each of these exchanges, the number of exchanges you need to trade on. And so it's a very simple formula. If you want to add more exchanges in the future, we can also calculate that. Also, it's worth noting that these FX tokens are the ones that we will be on the sell side, but we're also bringing our own stable coins to be on the buy side. So that is another risk we are also taking. Yes, so it's definitely a two parties here, and both of them are working to make this arrangement work. So I think I've talked for a long time. I don't want people falling asleep. So maybe I'll just stop here and see if there's any questions.
We do have some questions. I see one here. How long would it take, if the proposal passes, for Kronos to get everything in place and therefore increase liquidity for FX? Also, will you support all FX pairs or selected ones?
That's a good question. According to the proposal, there were 3 places that we originally put. It was Coinbase on the FX USD pair, Bithumb on the FX KRW pair, and Upbit also on the FX BTC pair. These are what we determined were the 3 most popular trading pairs, where a lot of what we call like price discovery happens there, where you want the most liquidity. And then after we're in the forum talking, and people said, well, what about KuCoin? We really want KuCoin. So we added that one to the proposal as well. So it would be those four places. How long would it take to get everything in place? That's a great question. I know that that's probably something for our infra team, but the first three shouldn't be any issue at all. I mean, actually, Neil, you're also on this call. Neil is also from Kronos. Do you have a better answer to that before I say something that's not completely accurate?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Neil from Chronos team. I'm mostly on BD side, so I maybe know more details than Ben here. Yeah. As the proposal passed, I think we can launch. Three or four pairs we proposed there. Only I think based on one, we need more time on the account creating. The Korean has very strict trading policy, crypto trading policy. So we need more time to work it out. Yeah, and for Coinbase and like KuCoin, we are the most one of the most active traders there. So I think we can start as soon as possible. We got approved from committee members. Yeah.
I'm glad you're here, Neil. That was a good answer.
Here's a question from the community. Since the loan will be contracted for 1 year, what are the specifications for the repay? Will it be paid back in FX or the USD equivalent or other? What will happen if the market goes way down, like in a 95% bear market? Will this have influence on the repay?
Oh yeah, I think I can answer this question as well. We make three call options with function X community or someone, if call option is like a buy option, right? So we may return back original amount of FX token in 1 year, or we may return stable coins, but in by the strike price. Yeah. So it depends on the price, the market price when our service is over. So if it's higher than strike price, we will return stable coins. But if it is lower than strike price, then we will repay the 6.8 million FX tokens. Yeah. So yeah, that's the answer.
Also, I just want to add on to that. At the end of the year, if the agreement's going well, then there's also the possibility we just extend. Correct, Neil?
Yeah. We will work out another, renew the proposal. Yeah. So this proposal is only for 1 year. Yeah.
Just to extend Neil's elaboration, just to be very clear, it will be, obviously the strike price will be higher than when we loan it to Kronos. So yeah, it's definitely more expensive than when we loan it to Kronos. So I think the onus is for the price to go up so that Kronos wants to exercise the options so that they pay back in US dollar, but at a rate where it is also higher than what we lended to them. So I think that is something that we fought for, and Kronos agrees.
Yeah.
Sure. A question: will progressive reports be given to the Function X DAO? Apparently, people have asked that in the forum as well. Progressive reports from Kronos in terms of their activity and the results.
I think I think we will tag Ben and Neil all the time on Twitter and forum to make sure they they update us all the time.
Yeah, I think the progress report probably not daily, right? Ben needs to sleep, right? Work probably a monthly report. Some things should be reasonable. Maybe we don't want to like add Ben every day. Hey Ben, how's the progress every day?
Yeah. Neil, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Actually, since I asked it initially, my concern was to get some reports back from Kronos about the way the liquidity is being used. And of course, I was not talking about an everyday report because I think you've got a lot of things to do. I was more thinking about a monthly report or a trimester report. I mean, since we're just talking about a 1 year loan, I think that even once every 3 months would be good to know. One other question I had beside that was I just understood how you were remunerating yourself when the market was climbing, but I still don't understand how Kronos is getting money out of it if the market's crashing. I mean, if the market's climbing, I mean, if it's bull, I'm just assuming you're gonna sell more at a higher price and then get your money out of it this way. But if the market's crashing, could you explain us how you're remunerating your teams from that?
Okay.
I think do you want to talk the first question about the progress reports? Okay.
Yeah. I will ask answer the first question, like about the monthly report. I think we have an excellent, maintenance service for our clients. So we will provide a daily, maybe a daily data bot on Telegram to maybe to FX team. Because it's not a very public one, but it will there will be some data to show that, and also we will provide a public monthly report to FX community. Then you can check what's going on and do we fulfill the KPI and the volume we traded. Yeah, so I think you don't need to worry about that. Yeah.
Okay. And the second one, I mean, in terms of like market makers have a small spread, which is the difference between the buy or the sell order and the midpoint. So anytime there's really high volumes, it's possible to earn from these activities. So volatility is not a bad thing, because usually with volatility, there's a lot of buying and selling happening, right? And then maybe the price goes down, but then it bounces, and then people aren't really sure what they want to do, so they're buying and selling, right? So for generally speaking, market makers are very happy on very volatile days, right? It's when it's going really flat and nothing's happening, nobody's crossing over, right? That's when no money is really being made. So I mean, obviously, if the market just crashed to zero or something, it would be bad. But generally speaking, that the risk management system that Kronos would have would prevent them from getting completely blown out by a move up or down. Would you agree, Neil?
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ben and Neil? Thank you very much for being willing to open yourselves up to the community.
No, I mean, it's important we realize transparency is the way a lot of these deals are going to work, right? So, I mean, that can be our edge even, because we are willing to do this. And we believe that if we do this right and we're transparent and we work well with the community, then it can be a really positive relationship. So, we have experience with our own DAO, so we know exactly what the community is worrying about and thinking about. So hopefully we address some of that today.
I think you have. Are there any other questions or comments, Zach, Danny?
All good. And Danny.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
Yeah. So I was just probably not a question but a comment. So so I mean, back to my uni, histories, and classes and my CFA examination. So yeah, liquidity is something very is I mean a asset an asset worth $1 million with no liquidity is actually just worse as a an asset worth nothing. So so I really believe when external parties which a reputable market makers can join the crowd, then we'll make, and hopefully after Kronos join the crowd, we can invite more external parties to join the crowd as well. So then can make the whole FX token markets become more liquid, and then and then become more reputable, and then let institution investors or some whales to come in and buy, sell as they wish. So close the gap, like we said, close the gap, protect your position, should be able to achieve in the near future. So yeah.
Can I hear you?
Yeah. So lastly, is there anything you want to add, David or Zach?
I'm good.
I'm good. I mean, I'm really very excited about the potential of having a market maker like Kronos as part of the whole ecosystem. I think it's going to be a really healthy trend for us. So if there aren't any other questions,
I have one thing.
yes,
guys, for those of you who have not voted, please vote. The proposal hasn't passed yet, so we need to get it through. Yeah.
Please do vote. Appreciate it. Okay, if there's no other questions, then thank you everyone for joining, and we'll meet again soon.
Sorry, I had the last one actually about governance.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes, it's not about this proposal 9. Of course, everyone, please vote. I think everyone's waiting for that. Yeah, I wanted to talk about governance and especially some confusion that might be between the Ecosystem Genesis Fund and the community spend pool that is available on the FX Core blockchain. The community spend pool is doted of around 30 million FX currently. I've seen that the proposal issued by Kronos was proposed to be taken off the EGF. However, I just want to make things clear. I don't know if it's going to be funded by the EGF or by the community spend pool. The EGF is going to reimburse the community spend pool by doing a donation into the community spend pool. I mean, it's a pretty technical question, actually, but I think it's important.
Good, very good question. How about Danny?
Hi. Very good questions, actually. So okay. So before I dive into this particular matter, so let's do a revision. How many pools do FunctionX Foundation or the committee has? Okay, so first thing, we have this EGF fund, so which is sort of like controlled by the foundations, or not really controlled, is custodian by the foundations too. And then decided by the governing votes to do to spending on marketing, exchange listings, or any other activities that the community thinks is fit to use that. And then the secondly is the community spend pool. So the community spend pool is something works this way. So where everyone knows the validator nodes actually do a block creation for every blocks, right? So for every blocks that creates a new tokens. So for every fresh tokens being generated from the block, right? Actually, according to the current system, 25% of them will go into what we call a community tax pool. So that community tax pool or the community spend pool is that what we are referring to just now. So currently, I think that community spend pool is around 25 or 30 million, somewhere around that. So what we are talking today is the community spend pool. So that particular pool needs to go through the proposal vote to be able to unlock. So to answer your questions, so we will directly sort of like draw the funds from the community spend pool to Kronos to make the loan.
Yeah, I fully understood that because that's the way the blockchain works. But initially, the proposal was described as being taken off the EGF. And my question is the EGF going to reimburse the community spend pool by making a donation, or will the EGF stay as is, and the community spend pool only will be used?
So basically, I think there's some mistake there. So there are two scenarios. So firstly is I have to check the code itself whether we can directly use a community spend pool. If not, then we probably will need to have another proposal to draw the fund from EGF spend pool and then to reimburse the community spend pool to reimburse the EGF pool.
I think ultimately the principle we are talking about is that the funds is coming from the foundation / the company, and we have used the community spend pool / EGF interchangeably to refer to where we want to take the money from. French X-Core, you asked a very good question. Where do we want to take the money from ultimately? And as Danny said, perhaps the best pool to draw it from is the community spend pool. But I think whether it's from the community spend pool or the EGF, we should be very clear. And ultimately, wherever we draw from, it is still from the foundation and spent for with Kronos.
Okay, French Core.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's becoming too technical maybe, and we might discuss about that aside. What's very important to me, at least, to our team, is to make sure that there's no confusion between EGF and community spend pool. Those are two different things. One is controlled by the FX Foundation. The other one's supposed to be controlled by the community, even if it's not totally right now. But it's important to keep those two side by side. And when talking about proposals, really say whether it's funded by the community spend pool, because it will always be, since that's the only way the Cosmos any Cosmos-based blockchain operates. But maybe you can, on your own, because you control it, donate the equivalent from the EGF to the community spend pool, and you donate back. The difference is mainly that actually what's going into the community spend pool will be reused later on for other proposals, and will be controlled by the community. And from a government perspective, that's completely different from a fund that is controlled by the team only. But
That's a very, very good point.
right now, it's not very important because even the community spend pool, I mean, we rely mostly on the team in order to vote as well. I'm not talking about the validators, I'm talking about delegators, but we rely on the team to approve those proposals because otherwise there's no way we can reach quorum. But still, I mean, if we think about the future of the blockchain, I think this community spend pool will be paramount to the good operation of the blockchain.
I agree.
Agree.
Okay.
Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you. You always raise really excellent points, whether in the forum or here. Thank you very much. And it's the first time that I've heard your voice. Actually, there was a question about whether you were a man or a woman until just now.
I don't expect to change sex very soon, but
actually, someone commented that maybe you were using a voice modulator, so we didn't know. Anyhow, I'd like to thank you, and thank you for, as always, participating in this. I'd like to a special thank you to Ben and Neil for joining on, and also again to Richard for giving us a good overview of the guidelines. And if there's any other comments, questions, then until next time, everyone take care. Again, thank you for joining in. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.